Hello, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. Roll call, we have quorum, Sally?
Correct.
Any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Adoption of the agenda. Resolved that the agenda for the May 11th, 2026 Board of Directors meeting be adopted as presented. Moved by Ellen. Seconded by Dana. All in favor? Carried. Item 1. Resolved that the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting held April 13th, 2026 be received and approved as printed. Means I will move that. All seconded. Mary Lou. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Item 2, employee presentation, watershed conditions update, and Frechette presentation, Catherine. And you're, sorry, I didn't see it.
Thanks. Thank you, Alex. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry. That wasn't good.
No, I'll take it off now.
Yeah. So before we go over current conditions and I guess we're also trying time is still done and I'd like to take 15 minutes and just have some as an opportunities and just ends. And yeah, this is one that was the last slide that I presented to you about the money when the measure was going to be here. And in anticipation of two snowmelt systems, snowmelt phases, this president the strategy and development for the first one has to pass the initial flow resulting from the initial really melt phase. Reason for it was a program patrol money them because later was the lines only by the spice color analytics. But I'm going to preserve the living storage capacity, the way anticipation is a expecting it's a longer phase that we expected to be much larger. This strategy was used in the real modeling strategy is closely the flow is very very modeling on the tone. And you see here mountain base peaks being routines. And this was being followed by a much longer second phase that's peak on 20 seconds. Yes, people 20 seconds. And what we have seen is what I feel the new normal. The new controlling global conditions now because first we turned out reach 1 money. We had about 150% of normal supply and beginning of the season. Then very early basically in the knowledge that initiated the mounting and mounting version of the snow. This was followed by false sound and research on remaining snow field way to the middle of the grill. And then we installed temperatures about 2 degrees. I have different and also this is only in the countries. So you can imagine the language of the brain and the university. And if that was we also receive about the brain, which was anywhere between 159 or some numbers in paper. So a couple of words about application space. First, those stick layers. Sharp mouse comes and 7 to go and comes well, that's not much. useful search capacity that we can use for getting providing data. No, I said at 150 million, it's no one moments in the providing information. And we can now this moment. What this picture is showing basically is how much we can accomplish with these models. What is improved is the storage capacity that we have in our release, and what is once we 100%, you get the power continuously. It needs making more capacity, so this is feasible, but we don't have it. So if everything that's in red cannot be scrolling when it needs to kind of forever. It's a very simple figure because I'm not even accounting from the rain constraints. We need some talk about the agents, the insurance, and that record these 1 billion and 35 millimeters of rain. So we don't have potentially just about 300 millimeters of water. Even making one. So this, what is this? Because struggling is that they counts because honestly the daily is from the strong to tell us we should come. And it's only because of the very small danger drains into the state. And then the applications of plasma you will need to create like 60% on the state of future constantly every day. It's something that we could feel multiple times. It is enough. But I guess the is how limited we are to meet the data with being higher something based on those. So this is not so this is the progression of the fresh light in time. And all we see is basically the normal usually called explosive. And then the different colors only to dark green is basically they upgrade this space from moving the flattened or flattened to a flattened middle. We simply end up with things very flattened situation and also now it's not misconnecting and as of now, last weekend today we are building downgrading to investment that things later to now we are not alone. We the map of the province and all the cities around us very similar situations. Floods and a bunch of space. I think all this thing that they use in children to be or motion of some levels of use for this could have been experience led to displacement of one of the that was around here. We happen to be this right. How unlikely is that to be where there and also put out the head of for people to actually fly the drone and counter this on the video that I can go if it works.
You can't be in PowerPoint mode if you want to run a video. You have to take it out of this the running mode. So just come out of display mode and then click on the arrow. So right now you're in display mode, you know, at the upper left-hand corner where it shows that you're running the PowerPoint. So put it back into edit mode and click on the video.
Strangely, has to be a different time, you know.
There you go.
Can actually see.
There.
We even tested.
Oh, cool.
It says low.
Hmm.
Oh, is it loading?
No,
No,
it's,
just what
I think it missed in terms of plugging anything. So that's, it's really cool, you know. So, supposed to be the highlight. All right, anyways, so, now, to understand why a golden and failed, we have to go back to filling out the team. Which when a book failed in example swimming when he was wrong in the was goes away with the others. Don't feel it's the last way with the young thing. Dance and put the boom back making play so that's the has orders and fix the line back when the way the graduates are not on the wall complete. You before neither the whole many comes to the still because it was even late. So I guess we're not going to part of the fun capital offline to our business view and we'll probably be handling the moment and the groups and we'll protect our team. And so for sure and then also the impact will let some background brings like green books on the name related on the something for all the next feature. We'll also need to provide some value rotation these number of dedicated with this based on in putting time, we designed the 21st of the train. And last week we fill the flowing started the upstream thing with the domain. So the dam and the protect the team. The season. So it's all lakes and you can see the sounds in on that now when the last slide looks so I would like to just behind the whole outfit that to magazine specialties but I'm sorry the clocks everyone think that game's like in the thing to do was love through the comms dealing with quite whatnot and world which engage and lower the I guess yeah and so that it must be being done. We also also by president. The only one so it also the basically the challenge the hospital so that's the thing so to speak. And then good function is to be called conditions.
Okay, so. You're planning to downgrade that to more tools, that's great. That's April 20th. I know much earlier, and then more is 2018 watch. That is developing next week. I just remind you of it, that's Friday trying to see which one are that. And you click on the specs of this number that calculated statement like that. What was made for formulas across the country, more local they vehicle and returns vehicle. So this is for the entire budget for 2026 is that grant moving in black to local media. So it will be ranked for the budget and this year we're going to and then the change and there's the 25, 27 this stuff we refer to as a range, and then we'll raise them to all anyone else. It was a period of the translation and basically as you can see somewhat significant with this I will not reach historical amendments names. We are now approaching people. And based on that celebration, we, maintain those same conditions for this one to this point to the central information in the seasonal thirties. So then, well, second, goes right. The flowing service here, folks on the line, the line was observed this year. One is like sort of a wave flow, so again, we're looking at this year compared to sex for in March. I need to wait. I'm also the mark and so basically the longer forming dots with these extra terms in the lines and so this is also related to finance rather than streams. In the same conditions, we are back to or across the models, which is great. Okay, so for auto, not sure yet. Big rush parts of it. So the base of this right, you're going to the same thing, so that right is the level we observe to this year. Black and white is to have gold and the brain is important, and the brain is this. But the base class is zero. Because this one now you see on the bottom there, orange right, those visions that actually be posted in this first wording on the right to bank and both of our data when we posted about this condition. You can see as we branch into the north. Lettering around safety, and still in that one box. Inside, you were actually running so I is a little different. Great. We get forecast from the river regulation flow. And they calculate on the fund. Today, together, we're going to be determined and super low connections in the messaging. So there's a lot of we'll start funding and see the same thing posted. And so we have some board and like the start. We have guys on funding and then series management. And so I just have in 5 and 20. The other side is 2 and 10, which work this graphics different fonts to look at. So I put all of those for you. If you don't know what that means, so for example, the 1 to 10 I selected these 1 to 10 options happening. That's like there's here 1 sound to that's the comments. That's where you raise that 10 meters. Every road 1 to 10 channels on the batteries. And I would basically you the right now the 20 arrow things on the 20. Left your hands but next to you. And this worth noting so we look and be on 10 not reach. And then it's just mess levels I think we should have blood innovation So. It's not for short term. The only thing that we really want to have for 2023 now is, are we going to be expecting like significant weather or this area space? Right now, no. You are curious. Some of it's gonna be down, so. And can't use it weekends. And there's multi sports in this week. This one you want to stay. Those are the things where they're sometimes they're trying to make more stuff. Freelance band. What you can see on the left hand side. Basically, what they start is constant, but not really versus power. So, why is it? As you can see, so I'm expecting Mia or Delta 2 big summary. Taser and concept of the for millimeters of taser. So we're actually expecting 15 millimeters with them. Saying something a little different. They're saying we continue on and once you're ready, but in the grade provided yesterday. And the bill one error so you can see that but nice is not that but it's so today as a main event. And then we're not on which is in fact of the 19th and based out of California below the spending in just so have to keep my storage we almost I will those we are expecting support standing on the outside. To keep that so we have
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Oh, wow. Old way, yes. See that teams. That was a great video. There we go. Well, I'm dying.
Any questions or comments?
Look at it one more time and look at the bottom part. Yeah. Yeah. Because the first time you just see it go, but the second time,
Yeah.
look at the bottom where the anchor.
Yeah, you
was.
can see it moving.
Yeah.
It's dragging, yeah. What happened after that?
Well, after that, we broke the boom from the Salisbury, because it was holding the outflow. You know, and just storing on the boom, and or I mean, down by the water on the temporary solution.
Keep in mind, these are like full, our team got very creative with very limited tools to help us develop that.
We had some very long days and weekends, that's big.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Lou.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say thank you, and I was privy to all the emails that went on after Mazadon. I'm glad to see the cooperation between North Frontenac and MVCA. Help you guys there, so thank you for what you do to your team. All right, number 3, GM update. Solid.
Well, I'll keep this brief. Highlights. So I'm actually going to start with the watershed, which is the next board meeting, because I just want to make sure everybody's aware what we're planning and encourage you to attend. So the first thing is we want to make this more of a conservation area focus, because most of them always focus on our dams and structures and water operations. But especially because the board is going to be tasked with making decisions regarding the museum development. It's really important that all the board members, as many of you as possible, actually get to visit the museum and the archives at the Milliken Tail, so that you can have that on the ground knowledge experience when you're making that decision later this year. And then carrying on up to Morris Island to showcase some of the stewardship work that we've been doing, as well as our ops team. And then the drive-by of Goleta, there's 2 properties the city of Ottawa recently acquired. One is Goleta Island, the other's on Ferry Road. And so I'm meeting with City of Ottawa staff actually the week or 2 before this board tour to talk specifically about the Goleta Island property. And they're contemplating having us have some sort of management role, potentially making it into a conservation area, as we have current arrangement with Morris Island, which is owned by the city of Ottawa. So I think it's important that the board have an opportunity to see that site and get a feel for it, so that when we're talking about it, we know what we're talking about.
And Omichi. Morris Island's also owned by.
Yes, well, yes. Well, yes, it's split.
Yes.
So then lunch in Elmont, hopefully right on the water. And then last year you saw a massive dam on the Ottawa River. This would be a much smaller dam owned by Mississippi Mill on the Mississippi River. And so for comparative purposes. So we think it's again, a very full day, very instructive to upcoming decisions the board has to make. And things coming down the pipe. So I wanted to highlight that. Though not here, late in the week, we were able to confirm the meeting with Bruce Fanjoy. So you may remember at our last board meeting, Kathy suggested I reach out to the MP for Carleton, and I did. And lo and behold, he wants to meet with us, and we're meeting with him today after this meeting. So we're going to meet at Hartford Conservation Area. And we're going to be speaking specifically about funding under 2 federal programs, the Disaster Mitigation Fund, as well as the Flood Hazard Identification Fund that the feds have, that we have benefited from. The DMAP program is helping to fund Kashwakamak to the tune of 40%. And the feds have provided 50% for all the floodplain mapping we've done outside the city of Ottawa in recent years. And both of those funds are now fully expended, and unless the government pumps some more money into it, those programs are going to come to a close. So the purpose of this meeting is to encourage the MP of Carleton to, in his ability within the Liberal caucus, to lobby for continuation of funding for those. And the timing was perfect because of everything, sadly, that was happening on the Ottawa. My letter went in when things peaked on the Ottawa, so, but it got his attention. Those are the two main things I wanted to highlight out of this. If there's other things that,
Any questions for Sally? Comments? Okay, thank you, Sally.
Yeah.
Item 4, amalgamation updates. Sally, give an update there before we read the motion.
so I just wanted, I don't know if, without any sort of criticism or judgment, as everybody had the opportunity to read either the letter or the report, because it's fairly extensive, there were constraints, and if anybody wants me to walk through it, I totally understand and respect that, just let me know. Okay, so the bottom line is, some motions going forward will probably come to me not saying that the board approved, but rather that the board recommend that the OPCA. So I think the vast majority of the recommendations will still be for your decision, but some of them, de facto, will have to be directed to the OPCA for actual approval. So I would not call this board lame duck, because you still have some authority to take decisions, but you don't have the purview to do all of what you are used to doing.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, because it came up at the F&A committee, do we know how the 2027 budget will be handled?
So tomorrow, the GMs have a briefing from Ernst Young, who are, I believe, the consultants overseeing working with the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency on this. And that's one of the questions I'm intending to ask, if we're allowed to ask questions, because we haven't been able to in recent briefings.
Well, I'm just curious about the Milliken Tail and the RFP. Like, I know you've mentioned that, staff will approach them, but does this mean that the people who are putting in RFPs will be notified that there may be a delay?
So I'm hopeful tomorrow I'll get the answer to at least whether or not that's definitely. So, well, tomorrow I hope to find out more information, period. Yes, once we receive the RFPs, my intent and based upon the motion I'm requesting approval of today, to submit a letter to the province that basically has 3 components. Here's the things that we intend to move forward with, because our interpretation is that we get to move forward with these, and that will be an appended list of things we are going to action right away. Number 2 will be the questions like, who actually, like, are you allowed to approve your budget? Because it certainly exceeds the threshold under the thing. So are we going to have to raise those to OPCA to approve? Who's to be circulated? Is it the new counties, the structure, or is it current membership? So, and there's any number of questions like that DMs and other boards have. So there'll be questions like that I'll be putting in this letter. And then lastly, I'll be identifying those key core projects that we want to make sure keep on track, because there's a lot of people invested in them, and as I will outline to them, here is as much information as I think you need for you to, say yay or nay. When we get to that point where we actually have a board recommendation, will you need additional information? Because I need to know now if they're going to need additional information so that we're not held up, particularly not just for the Milliken Tail, but when I think about Kashwakamak, it's subject to a bidding process, right? Bids are only good for a certain number of days. So we can't be waiting 30, 60 days for the province to allow us to award a contract, particularly when we have such constrained construction periods. So I'm kind of getting that better. Tell me now what additional information you're going to need beyond which I'm providing you today. And hopefully we'll get quick approvals.
Wayne, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up. No? Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll read the motion. Resolved that the Board of Directors authorize staff to notify the OPCA of key initiatives that may require exemption in accordance with the Minister's direction as set out in Report 3563/26. Need someone to move that? Paul? Seconded by Bev. All in favor? Carried. Item 5, 10-year capital plans. So, Stacy.
Okay. Per policy, we need to bring the 10-year capital plan forward annually. I know there's issues now with moving, etc. This is the first opportunity to bring it forward after having completed the dam inspections, and we obtained building condition assessments, both for the headquarters and all the buildings in Middle Tail. It is our most up-to-date information. It was been adjusted since the FNA to deal with the issues that from Mazenod, as Zero mentioned. Compared to what was at the FNA, this is adding 945,000. That is 567,000 in direct costs. There's about 150K in increased inflation costs because of the projects that are being delayed. They're going to cost more. We're putting Mazenod in earlier, and because of the scope of Mazenod, we are anticipating debt financing that, so it's adding about 150K over the 10 years in debt financing costs. We also we now have the 60% signed for cash complete, and we have an initial construction budget from the consultants, so that is what this is based on, not our previous estimates for cash. Staff costs are now in the 10-year capital plan, so they can be amortized and properly allocated, and allowing for hiring of contract positions if needed for certain projects, such as larger floodplain mapping projects. We may not have the in-house staff, we may have to hire a short-term contract. As mentioned, the headquarters and MLK, we've had building condition assessments completed, and we've anticipated 2 inflation factors on direct expenses. I've applied 3.5%, and we have put in 2.5% on staff as an inflation factor. If you're looking at page 13 of your agenda package, that deals with the water control structure, the watershed monitoring, and floodplain mapping. Ash, Mazenod, Big Gull, and Bennett Lake projects are planned to be debt financed in line with policy. Does anyone have any specific questions on that? And pause each section to see if people have questions. 52. 52. Oh. Did this keep going on? Okay. On page 54 is the conservation areas, the headquarters, vehicle and IT. The water and sewer is anticipated to be debt financed. We're still waiting, but hopeful maybe this year it'll get done. Any specific questions on that?
Just on the Middle Tail visitor services, what does that entail, and what's the difference between visitor services and Middle Tail CA?
So the visitor services is the buildings on site that are under the category 3. That improvements at the museum, the gatehouse, the Ed Center, Oyster. There are both the gatehouse and the museum later in the 10 years do require septic replacement. So that's a significant cost there. Those are the factors.
And I noticed there's also some stonework. I thought she done all the stonework.
We did, it needs to be. It's life cycle under the business.
Okay, so
Building
it's just a
assessment,
check-in.
it's a,
You have to make sure. Okay.
Any other questions on that? Comments? I have one. The sewer connection and water connection.
Yes,
We're not connected yet, right?
no, correct.
So how real is that number?
The 750?
Yeah, because every year we wait, prices go up.
It's still a bit of a guess. Because we did the design a couple of years ago. I believe we're pretty solid on the amount of it that's gonna be the shared cost. It's the actual getting it connected. It's as close as we could guess it is.
Got it?
No, sorry.
Okay. Any other questions on this section? Go ahead, Steve.
And page 52 of the agenda is a schedule of the property levy increases that we are proposing. Starting from 2029 going forward, we're proposing changing the base capital levy to be 5.5. It has been higher and it was scheduled to be starting in 2029 to drop 3.5%. We've now got floodplain mapping is now a capital project, so that's shifting over to this levy. And then we're also still anticipating ending the levy surcharge in 2032.
Go ahead, Doug.
I wouldn't be all of it if we think in the whole scheme of things, like, you know, it's kind of like playing in the sandbox and, you know, rearranging things.
So I think of it the same as with your municipalities. All of you do long range financial planning, capital planning. And you all know that at a certain point in time within that capital plan, you're gonna stand for election and council may change, right? So I don't view this as any different. Long-term financial planning is always a good idea. And particularly, I think it will help with the transition. It will demonstrate to the incoming board the intent and the priorities that they need to be focused on, as well as we move forward with some of these initiatives with the OPCA, where they actually have the authority to approve. This demonstrates good financial management and demonstrates to them that anything we're putting forward is within the context of a 10-year plan that we've thought out and we've demonstrated to be affordable. So I have no qualms about the board reviewing and approving a 10-year capital plan at this time.
It's all about kind of continuity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is a question maybe for more for you. Oh, you went away to your, oh yeah, no, you're there. So when we had the finance and administration committee meeting, Mazenod was stated to be in good condition. So I'm just kind of worried about whether there are any other risks in what we think are in good condition items that could hit us, because I mean, this was like an extra $500,000, right? That we weren't able to approve on Monday last week.
Yeah, 500,000, that's the estimate. For the repair of the investments.
Yeah, extra $500,000,
Yeah.
right? But I'm just wondering, are there any other things in your mind looking?
Well, you know, it's kind of like the other twist questions, right, that we have is getting that we might reveal, you know. These things, that was the situation I was now.
Okay, so is there any of like?
We have now, unfortunately, you know, we are really aging infrastructure, more people priorities now.
Right,
And I'm not saying that most of this will happen next year, it won't be living without, it's something that might be the other risk, right, that's a long issue, we need to provide, the particularly board because of the increased rate, you know, we are really approaching the level at which is it near right and I went go involved, right?
right,
It's, and again, we need to look at the priority and see how we spend the knowledge of all the other projects, the other, then we start, you know, like combining it and get going, so that's really major sponsors. Right, these are here and 20 years long structures, that we did.
Yeah, no, I understand that's what you're juggling. I was just worried that
We're gonna get another surprise.
we're gonna get another surprise. Yeah, exactly. Yes, so, right, what am I doing? I'm not sure.
So,
So if I can just build on what Euro said, so appended to this report are our priority process, right? Where last year or 2024, you approved an asset management plan for our water control structures. At that time, we categorized the criticality of all of our dams A, B, C. And so part of that is doing dam safety reviews and condition assessments. So over the past several years, we have been for priority dams, been doing these types of works. And so when you look at the 10-year capital plan, so the details aren't embedded in here. Some of them involve doing for the DSRs or condition assessments. So that's not to say that there isn't inherent risk, but we have a program of activities that for those category A and B dams in particular that will help us to identify, and then plan and capital would support you. So yes, there is always embedded risk, but I think the approach that you approved back in 2024 will allow us to catch these things in a timely manner. This one, unfortunately, because it was repair done during an emergency situation back in 2019, and they basically brought in a load of gravel, repaired it, and stuck the thing back in the ground, we didn't get back to it. So clearly now we're going to.
The only reason I raised this, and was in Euro's presentation, is that with the climate changes that we're seeing, is that we are getting more frequent high water levels or high flow levels. And so that may, increase the risk. And I understand that, you're doing your best. I'm not trying to criticize anybody here. It's not my intent. It's just, I'm wondering if that kind of message could be useful when also you're talking to Bruce Banjoy, because I just think, we can even point to this thing, show them the video.
Pull it up on the phone.
Yeah, that on the phone and just say, look, so this is critical and we're seeing, that there's more stress on these dam structures that are aging and how critical the money is. So I just think there's a message out there that's they might get. Okay.
good point, Jen.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Lacey, go ahead.
You look at page 55 of the agenda. That's the revenue section for the capital plan. We do anticipate 50% WECI funding and 50% funding for floodplain updates, either from the City of Ottawa contribution agreement or hopefully continuation of the FIP program or other grants. We're planning debt finance. The headquarter water and sewer connection, House Dam, Mazanon Lake Dam, Big Gull Lake Dam, Bennett Lake Dam. We're now attributing the interest and investment income as per the investment strategy. The portion is the restricted capital is part of the revenue source for the 10-year capital. I kept it fairly low, still new at this. Hopefully that will increase as we go along. We're participating using reserves for the Widow Lake Dam work. And other than that, planning towards building continued reserves. Starting from 2031 is when we're starting to see money going back into those reserves and building. It's just a question, and as I look at this, is there any need, or do we even need to think about, like thinking about the Lebanon Dam and that, should we have some kind of a reserve here that's essentially an emergency? That's just for emergencies. I don't know, I'm just asking. I know you've covered a lot of things here, but should there be a little pot of money for that?
So we do on the operating side. So definitely our operating reserve allows for any number of contingency events. I don't have any strong feeling on an emergency fund for the capital. Because we have a fairly, we'll call it aggressive, but sound capital program.
I would think I would consider any of the reserves we're building to be in the event of an emergency or we didn't get lucky funding. As we're building that water capital, water control structure reserve, it's to allow us to be able to
Thank you,
deal
Jill.
with
That's just kidding.
we just don't have it.
But you just add one more comment then, is that, so those annual increases to the capital levy is in part to get us to that point where those are depend on in-year activities, right? So everything, unless it crosses that $500,000 threshold, is pay-go. You know, money comes in and it goes out that same year, and yes, you're continuing to build your reserve fund, but you're able to use current revenues. That's the goal of it. So I think it's a fairly healthy approach.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Fairly, you got a hand up?
Well. I'm just sitting here looking at all these figures and projects, etc. And as far as the information you have been getting. 2 or 3 years down the road. We will no longer exist, and has the intent been given to you that the 4 or separate budgets will all be amalgamated into one and centralized, and then that is going to come down to counties? And so I'm not telling you anything below that, because we are now paying for this on levies, most of which comes from Ottawa. But each of the other municipalities also are being levied, and we're planning that. But we have been, yeah, and I applaud the staff for creating the plan. But are some of our questions just again redundant? Because we will not have any control as of the end of 2027.
February 1st.
So a couple of things. We're getting a bit of mixed messages on who will pay for what going forward. So on the one hand, one of the province's reasons for amalgamating was to even the playing field among CAs, because some CAs are poorer than other CAs. And so it was to allow for a redistribution of monies that bring everybody up to a common standard across CAs here. That was one of the stated objectives of the province in forwarding amalgamation. However, there has been subsequent conversations, and that's the best I can call them, is conversations, wherein some jurisdictions are saying, well, you know, some CAs, for instance, are coming into this, they already know that their operating budget for 2027 is going to be at a deficit. And the question in the room is, who's going to pick up that deficit, right? So this is something that I think will come up in the transition committees, is the answer to that question, because it's going to be, I'm certain you will ask it if I don't. So I think the members of the transition committee will be wanting the answer to that. And it may come out at this EY meeting tomorrow, or it may come out through the working groups, the transition committee meetings. But I think that will have to be one of the first questions, is what does year one look like from a financial perspective?
Yes, and question that we put David, that is one of the, who's the force history of our incarnation?
You know?
Yes, I do. So it ain't raisin. I mean, it's raisin, and it certainly isn't burrito, but raisins in a sticky situation in that they took on a property many years ago that was run by the St. Lawrence Commission, and they invested boatloads of money into it, and they made it a going concern, such to the extent that it now constitutes a significant amount of their operating revenues, and their organization has been designed around that. So my understanding is, and of course this is hearsay, but that St. Lawrence is refusing to renew their lease. and is now gonna walk away with this asset that the raisins invested so much time and money into. And they're gonna lose those revenues that they've been counting. So they're struggling right now to figure out how they're gonna make up a significant loss in revenues next year. So it's a very sad situation, but it doesn't seem like there's movement on. So they have some serious hard decisions to make when they're drafting their 2027 budget. They're in a very different position from us. So, but this is important information, you know, that, and theirs is not unique. I'm sure there are other examples around the province where some are very, very good, you know, financial position and others, I mean, and that wasn't due to poor financial management. That was just due to bad luck and decision of an upper tier level of government, right?
Interesting conversations and all.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Stacy.
So also looking at the 2029 to 2035. So focused post cash, because that's a bit of an anomaly. The average cost per year on the capital plan are 1.97 million. With the proposed levy schedule, by 2035, the projected annual capital levy would be 1.7. So we would be almost at the pay-out point on our capital. So we've done well in focusing on the capital. We just need to keep that capital levy at a reasonable level to maintain building of our reserves and program that we're doing. Again, we have a lot of teaching control structures, etc. On the reserve side, we're currently at 31% of what the target balances are updated to be with this plan. By the end, if everything goes as we've anticipated, we would be getting up to 57%. Moving in the right direction. And again, I focused post cash because cash is such a significant piece. Bringing overall cost.
Questions, comments? That's it. All right, thank you. I'll read the motion. Resolved that the board of directors approve the 10-year capital plan update and schedule of capital levy increases set out in report 3559/26 for the period 2026 to 2035. I need someone to move that. Cindy. Seconded by Wayne. All in favor? Carried. Six, investment update. Lisa.
Investments. Didn't have a tradition of investments.
Added for P8 or.
We're about 10.5 months in. On the high interest savings account, the rate of return is average to 75%. And on the investment portfolio with the mix, we're currently at 2.84% return. We did have a meeting with Invest One, and the advice of their chief investment officer, given that we have a longer range before we're really having to use much of that, that we be targeting in his world for 30% allocation to the equity portfolio. We currently only have 5. Suggest that we increase that to 10% of the mix, which would be reallocating 5% from the Canadian government bond to the equity portfolio. That's what we're proposing to do. Moving, I think, 557,000 to that. At the FNA, I did raise what type of reporting they would like to see from the statement, because I did include the full statement, and it's a lot. They asked for much more summarized the quarterly report that comes from Invest One, the first 5 pages of it is just an executive summary and their management comments and opinions on what state of the markets have been in the last 3 months. So that's going forward what I would anticipate.
Any questions or comments? That's
Just a question about the rate of return, obviously, was turbulent. How does that compare with the cost of living? At the same time, do you know?
The cost of living is up and down. Like in July, it was 1.7. Right now, last month that it came out, it was 2.4. So we are still doing,
Still ahead.
still ahead.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? I just have one. Are we signed into a contract with Invest One or?
No, part of our policy is that we review it every 2 years. It's much more like having a bank
Okay.
versus
I'm just looking
An
ahead
investment.
of the next 2 months of what's gonna happen, right?
it is within the policy that
Okay.
we have to review it every 2 years, which would be
Within that.
this time next
Yeah,
year.
I get it. Very good. Okay, any other questions or comments before I read the motion? Resolve that the board of directors approve implementation of the 2026 investment strategy set out in report 3561/26. I need someone to move that. Bev. Second, Ellen. All in favor? Carried. Item 7, proposed budget process. So
Okay, so recognizing we're not sure whether you will actually approve the budget or not, the proposed budget is that we get budget direction from you today. That over the next few months, we develop a draft budget, and such that we're able to table one in probably late August with the finance and admin committee meeting, and then get the full board receive it in September. Hopefully between now and then, we find out who we are to circulate the draft budget to, such that in October, you can consider the final draft budget. And either you will be approving it or you will be recommending it to the OPC.
any questions or comments? Mary Lou?
Just one, very specific. What's the date of the meeting in October?
Oh, it's a week before the election, because we have the long weekend with Thanksgiving, so it's the Monday after the Thanksgiving, which is the week before the election.
Any other comments or questions? And again, we're just approving the timeline.
Correct.
I'll read the motion. Resolved that the board of directors approve the timeline set out in report 3560/26 for development and approval of the 2027 budget. I need someone to move that. Paul, seconded by Dana. All in favor? Carried.
Oh. Right. October 19th.
Well, that's exactly 1 week.
Item 8, proposed 27 budget and levy assumption. So
Okay, so as you're all aware, we tend to look to the city of Ottawa for direction on our annual levy increases. And this year, obviously, with the adjustment in the timeline, we want to do that. So what we're proposing is an average of the past recent years, an increase to the operating levy, which is 3%. In accordance with the capital plan, the 10-year capital plan that you just approved, a 7.5% increase on the capital levy. And then in terms of the assessment rate, this year you approved 1.6%. We're recommending 1.5% next year, just because of where the economy's at and the uncertainty with the price of oil, etc. But we really don't know. It's very early in the year to be making that assumption, but unfortunately, that's where we find ourselves. And then in terms of the cost of living increase, we're recommending 2.5% because 2 years ago it was in the order of 7%. We went with something significantly less than that. So we felt that 2.5% would help to make up a bit of that difference and, you know, reflect that their cost of living this year is in around you just mentioned 2.4. So it's just a little bit more just to help make up that difference from a couple of years back when it was 7. So that's the budget envelope on the levy side that we're recommending for development of the 27 budget.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll read the motion. Resolved that the Board of Directors directs staff to develop the 2027 budget and related documents in accordance with the following parameters. 1, an increase of 3% plus assessment growth to the operating levy. 2, an increase of 7.5% plus assessment growth to the capital levy. 3, an assumed assessment growth rate of 1.5%. And 4, a cost of living increase of 20 to the 2027 pay scale of 2.5%. I need someone to move that. Wayne. I'll second it. Kathy. All in favor? Carried. On to item 9, Scott. Please.
He's absent today, so I'm Scott Day.
Thank you, sorry.
No. So we have had various inspections occur in recent years on our in our conservation areas. Most recently, we had somebody dig an illegal trench across the KNP, which posed a significant health and safety risk to anybody using the KNP trail. We had talked notionally previously to the board about the potential use of using surveillance videos. We now definitely want to move forward with this. There was damage to a person's vehicle. Luckily, there was no damage to anybody, and we were able to go out there and quickly remedy this situation. But you know, things have kind of escalated, and so we feel it's important that we you know, install some sort of devices. So what this report is asking for your permission is that we pilot them. We have had incidents at other conservation areas where we've had break-ins of vehicles, etc. So we just want to make sure that we have the board's knowledge and concurrence before we move forward with any sort of surveillance. Try it as a pilot, see how it works. You know, we've got some initial costs, and you know, it's something we can manage within the operating budget. You know, it's mentioned on page 101. You know, the actual cameras themselves don't cost a whole lot of money, and our own staff would install them. It's more the, you know, data collection, retrieval, and storage that is more costly. So the second part of the recommendation is just that we have some sort of official policy as a corporation on video surveillance. This was recommended to us, that we have some sort of simple statement. This one is the policy that's actually from the county front. As we reached out to them because it was on their section of the trail. It was one of their trail wardens who was affected by the illegal trench.
Paul.
I guess the comment here goes, there's 2 types of surveillance. There's general surveillance. From looking in an area or a parking lot, whatever. And then there's this one, which is very specifically related to somebody that you've had a long history with that we're currently in court with.
We don't say.
And we don't know
Currently in
that.
court.
We don't know. We don't say that here in the
We
motion.
and we cannot say that definitively. Right? That's part of the issue.
Okay, I think your camera's gonna install. That's just my opinion.
That's why it's a pilot.
I know, but we've had them up in our landfill site and we just constantly lose them until we put them up on a 40-foot pole.
And disguise it as an osprey nest.
Dad, you had a comment?
I was just gonna say, if you get the kind that they have, you'll be seeing this person's feeling. Because the kind you get, and I've used them, we have them on the Cook Hills and the kind that transmit.
Yeah, we got that, a guy with a black belt file face
So I'm
looking
just
at.
saying that it just never have anything where you can give it a try because.
No.
So.
Oh, okay. I, well, on the,
Kathy, go ahead.
Just, is there something in the report there about, there's a policy, we have right now, but the policy doesn't cover this, but change the policy?
Yeah, the policy is mainly for in-house, we do electronic monitoring of the building, of our computer devices. It's more of that kind of focus. It's not dealing with public surveillance.
So we don't need to change the policy to the bottom.
No, we just need to approve. We will add in this policy that's in that second part of the recommendation.
Oh, sorry, I don't have the recommendation here in front of me. I just have it.
Roy will read it with the.
Okay.
he reads the-
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? So did you know if we have to post signs now that you may be
Yes.
under surveillance, right?
Yeah, and we checked with MVCA. There's a whole guide on that we need to comply with or that we'll be following in establishing the pilot.
If there's no more questions or comments, I'll read the motion. Resolved that the board of directors approve a pilot to install surveillance devices at MVCA properties that have experienced section 29 violations in accordance with report 3565/26, and further resolved that the board of directors approve amendment of electronic monitoring policy to include video transmissions and recordings are monitored, saved, and archived for security purposes, and to monitor compliance with applicable policies, procedures, and expectations. I need someone to move that. Janet. And Cindy. All in favor? Carries. Item 10, heroes. Register, sorry,
I'll just speak to it briefly.
okay,
If this is an FYI item, this is a registry of natural hazards that we maintain now to make sure that generations to come, they have a one-stop shop for all the events that have occurred. So Catherine updated this document, you'll see on page 108 of the agenda packet with last year's route. It's sort of enough boxes that it warranted to be captured in this report. So this was mainly intended for, trend analysis over time that we can, and to know what areas were affected, how many households, that sort of kind of thing.
Janet,
Is it posted online? Because it's very interesting.
No, but it's something we could look at.
So I'm just thinking that it's, it makes me think of what's happening in a watershed in a different way when you see all the data compiled rather than just it's in your head. Yeah, I remember the 2017 and
Yeah.
So I just think it has some impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it should be posted.
Okay.
I would agree, like, when I read that, I thought that's really compelling. You know, because people say to me, oh, that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
I can't remember the last time, yeah, maybe it happened last year, but it hasn't happened ever before, might have. This is hard to.
Okay, we'll definitely take that as direction.
All right.
any other comments or questions regarding that? Seeing none, we'll move to adjournment. Resolve the board of directors meeting be adjourned at 2:12 p.m. I need someone to move that. Kathy. Second, it, Helen, all in favor? Carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. I hope.
You did.